Hi, everybody, and welcome back to God Winks.
My name is Ashley Crane.
And I am Gina Tognoni-Shirello. We are so happy to be back again this season, 2025, 2026 of God Winks. We're going into our second season, and we're excited.
It is
Ashley,
really
so many
exciting.
people have asked us, what made you do this? Why did you guys decide to do this? So, what really drew you to God Winks?
What really drew me to Godwinks was just coming out of this pandemic and coming out of so many things. I had a big move during the pandemic. I moved from New York back to my hometown down south,
Yeah.
switching up jobs, being in an industry where you're close to people and working from home is not necessarily something that you can do all the time. I just really found myself excited about this idea of creating something that's full of positivity and encouragement, of talking with other believers who are in the same industry as us, or maybe they're not creatives, but they're athletes, which is so exciting. And so going into season one of this, I was selfishly a little bit looking for to kind of learn from other people's stories, and I was excited about hearing
Mhm.
about the times that God moved in their hearts because I needed that for myself. And
Right.
so it was just such a blessing to be able to be part of creating that for other people. And just seeing from season one all of the people who have been so blessed by all of this, blessed by the stories that were shared by the people who
Mhm.
came in and they were transparent. They really opened up their hearts and souls to us and they shared some of their deepest, darkest moments. And so I'm really thankful for all of our guests who came and joined us last year. And I've I've been so blessed by all of that this past year, and I'm excited to continue into season two.
I love it. You know, um, just to kind of give listeners and viewers a sense of who we are to one another, Ashley and I met in acting class. Uh, it was around probably 2020, around the pandemic. We're not quite clear on exactly what year we met, but it was
It was
around that time. And
2019. It was a little before the pandemic. Yeah.
2019. Okay. Uh, and our through line was Penny Templeton, a teacher that I've known for a very long time. I think I was working with Penny when I was on One Life to Live for ABC. She was a wonderful coach, and she'd come on set, and she would talk to you about just scenes, breaking scenes down because they would be so high volume and every day. And I needed some help, and there are a lot of folks that worked with her and loved her, her and Hank, her husband. Shout out to Penny Templeton. I love you. So. We were in her class together. Just as for me, I went back to her class because I always love it, and I kind of like stretching and always being challenged. And we met, and I think it might have been over a project. Shannon Lely wrote a book, and I was workshopping the book. In other words, just sort of playing around. I wrote a monologue from the book. It was her material, but I sort of, put it together in a monologue format. And I brought it to class, and Ashley, you were so kind, and you enjoyed it. And it was a lot about God. Basically, Shannon, which was a guest last year, shares her story how God reached into her life and changed it forever. And it was so inspiring to me that I did like this storyboard on it. In other words, I found pictures, and what was happening is that the Holy Spirit, the way I see it, is that the Holy Spirit was so strong in her story that it was speaking to me. And what it spoke to in me was that God is asking us to trust Him at the end of the day. And when we trust Him, it, do you hear that beeping?
I
Hang on
do.
one second.
Yeah.
Okay, okay.
It's okay.
I knew that was gonna happen. Okay. Okay, so take two. Shannon's book, the reason why it spoke to me and why I decided to workshop something like that was it was speaking to my heart. And it was in 2020, 2019. around a time that was very difficult for many people. And we, let me back up. That book didn't come out in 2021. That book came out,
Not a few years later, I think. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, okay. So let's back up. So when I was working on the book, Shannon Lely's book, What Are You Doing, as a workshop, and that's where really Ashley and I became much closer. And I realized that the Holy Spirit was reaching into my heart and speaking to me and saying so clearly, trust me. And, that's really leads me into, where I was in my life and really, God winks. Certain things that I knew where God was moving so quickly in my life. I had left Young and the Restless. Life had changed in so many ways. I was commuting for 5 years, and then here I was back home on a regular basis. I wasn't hustling as much. And what you would think would be like the easiest thing turned out to be one of the most difficult transitions that I had ever been through. And I look back now, and I knew it then, but I know it now more than ever. God was truly redirecting me, okay? He was redirecting every piece of me, my soil. And when I say soil, meaning where I was physically, mentally, and emotionally, he was redirecting everything. And I just kept getting, trust me. That is so difficult for someone who's incredibly independent minded, that's who I am, right? I'm a hard worker and I'm an actress. I've been an actress since I was like, oh, I don't know, like I've been at this since I was 20 years old. I'm like 50 or something now, so you can imagine. So everything from my identity to who I am, who I've become, that started really coming into the forefront because life had changed so much. I was home. I didn't have a job to run to, so to speak. That kept me so busy, so to speak. And that's really where I began to grow more and more as far as a maturity in God. So, stopping there, Ash, when we came together and we started working, we said we wanted to create something that meant, we said that we wanted to create something that celebrated God, celebrated our faith, and met people where they're at. Because that's where I was. I was where I was at. And even though I think like, well, I was born and raised Catholic. And then in my 20s and 30s, I'd say I almost became like a spiritual mutt. Always loved God, always loved Jesus Christ, but was curious, very curious. So, wondering, what is this whole thing and what is manifestation and all the and I began to realize it keeps coming back to one thing, and it's trust. Trust in Jesus, trust in God. And that is a lifelong journey. Because sometimes we don't realize how much we're holding on, how fear based we are, what our dialogue is with ourselves, what our dialogue is with God. Are we hearing God's voice? Whose voice is it? Is it my voice? Is it the enemy's? Am I uplifted? Am I condemned? Or did I get convicted and then turn towards God and keep going towards God? Or did I run away from God? So these are big questions. And Ashley and I would just start talking about God, and we just knew that we both enjoyed it.
Yeah, and you reached out to me a few years into our friendship, and you said, I really want to start something, and you started telling me all of these ideas that you had and these thoughts that you had, and I mean, I was in from the from the get go, but it was just such this incredible vision that you had, and we sat down and we figured out exactly what we wanted this to be.
Yeah.
And of course we planned, and of course we didn't stick exactly to plan because we're human and other people are human, and it's incredible seeing where God has said, yeah, you guys had the right idea, but I've got this other cool thing. I've
Yep.
got this person who's going to share this story that you just never could have imagined. And
No,
so it's been a really truly incredible experience.
I know. And I pray that it will be the same for this year. And I know it will. And it's sort of like we have our plan, but you don't know what God will do. Um, Let me ask you, what was your God wink? One
Oh,
that you can share with us. Now, I've had a ton. I think you've had a ton, but the one that you're like, ugh, okay.
yeah. I've definitely got a good one. Here is my God wink. So I moved, I'm from the South. I moved to New York. I don't remember what year, and I was living there for a few years. And at the time, Gina and I were not friends yet. I had not met her yet, and I had a wonderful community. I had a wonderful job. I was so thankful for Penny's studio. I was meeting all these fabulous actors and actresses, and life was great. But I had gotten to a point where, I was working a job that I had to work on the weekends, and so I didn't have a lot of opportunity to go to church. So I started going to Hillsong, and they had
Mm.
7 services every Sunday. So it didn't matter what my work schedule was, I could make it to at least one of those services. So I started going, and I heard that they had a night of worship for creatives. Like, it was specifically for filmmakers and actors and musicians and painters and artists. And I was like, that's exactly what I need to go to. And I wasn't able to go to the first time, and then I wasn't able to go to the second one, and I kept, like, every time I would miss one, I would feel this, like, pang of, like, you really need to be there, you really need to be there. And I'll probably cry as I'm telling the story. But anyways, so I finally make it to one, and my friend was supposed to come with me. She canceled at the last minute, so I almost went home, but I pushed forward. I kept going. I'm walking down the street, and I'm like, man, I really just don't feel like going to this. It's cold. It's December. I'm uptown, and I live in Brooklyn. I just want to be home. And but I kept going, and then I show up to the wrong address, and I almost turned back then too. But then I kept saying, no, it's got to be on the street. Like, I will find this place. So I go in, and I'm thinking, okay, this is your time to find Christians. This is your time to find creatives. This is your time for community. You're gonna go in. It's gonna be this, like, it'll be like a small group. Everything will be great. And I finally find the church. I walk in, and there are no less than 2,000 people at this event. We have completely filled up an entire church with 2 balconies. And I just felt this, like, weight of despair of, like, here you are again in this giant crowd of people. No one's going to give you a second glance, no one's going to say hello to you or anything. And we're at church, so people are saying hi, but you know what I mean? Like, there's not going to be any connection. Like, because Hillsong's already such a huge church.
Mhm.
It was just it just felt extremely disparaging, I guess.
Mhm.
And so I go in, and we're listening to worship, and I've got my eyes closed, and I'm just praying, and I start, like, sobbing, and I'm just so distraught, and I'm like, God, please, like, I can't do this anymore. I'm so lonely. Like, do I just need to go back
Mm.
home? Do I need to move back down to where my family is? Why can I not find people that align with my
Mm.
beliefs and align with my interests? Why is this so hard? Why is this so difficult? Why are there so many people and nobody seems to see me? And I felt this, like, tap on my shoulder, and I open my eyes, and I'm, like, sobbing like a baby. And I turn, and there's this girl there, and she's about my age, and she's, like, very perky, and she's like, "Hey, my name is Tara." Um, I'm gonna cry again. She's like, "Hey, my
Mm.
name is Tara. I lead a small group for actors. Would you want to join us?" And I was like,
What?
"Oh my gosh." this is incredible. I was like, yes, please, like, just
Yep.
tell me where it is. I'll move my work schedule to be there. And so she was like, yeah, and she gives me the information and she's like, we would absolutely love to have you. Are you an actor? And I was like, yes, I'm an actor. Like, you're
Right.
exactly what I've been looking for. So it was just God just saying, "Hey, everything's going to be okay." And I go to her group and I make friends. I mean, it was still not a small group. There was like 40 people there, but we ended up breaking we ended up breaking into like two groups of 20. But she was just great and I have been so blessed by her friendship. We're still friends to this day. Um, but I was so thankful that God was like, "Hey, literally right beside you
Right.
there is a person who is going to speak into your life, who is going to give you the place that you need to find rest, to find a place to relax." And and I think maybe God was waiting for me to ask. You know, I
Yes.
think all of that time I had just been like, why? And
Right.
that was the first time I had said, God, please send me somebody, send me a person or a group of people who are going to be, you know, friends. And I had so many creative friends, but I didn't have that many believer friends. And it was just the most incredible moment of God saying, like, I'm right here. All you have to do is ask. And
Hmm.
so,
Hmm.
and I was so, like I said, I was so blessed by that small group and by those people, and I'm still friends with them today. And um, so it's just incredible to see what God can do when you just ask.
I love it. And it's the truth. You have not because you ask not, and we
That's
hear
right.
that in the Bible. I mean, directly ask Him
Yeah.
for what you think you need,
Yeah.
and He will provide you with what you need. Sometimes not necessarily with what you want, but what you need.
Right.
And so that is so inspiring because as you're telling me this story, this goes back to, and I had not heard your story yet, by the
Yeah.
way. I've not, this is me now. I have not heard your God wink. I kind of prayed on. I said, Lord, what do you want me to share? And I got that, we are wired to worship.
Mm.
We are, as a human race, we are wired to worship. And unfortunately, sometimes we can get away from how God designed us to be. And how do we know that? Well, I know it from firsthand experience. When I would lose my peace, when I would feel lonely like you felt in that church, when you felt overwhelmed, when you felt pressure,
Yeah.
and I said, okay, this is what I want to bring today. When when I any time in my career I would feel enormous amounts of pressure, I just thought it was normal. I just thought that
Yeah.
that's because I'm a hard worker. I
Hmm.
put my heart and soul into it. It means a lot. It means I care. But after time and time again, when it was really kind of depleting me, I realized, my God it tells me I can rest in Him.
Hmm.
My God's asking me to trust Him. He doesn't necessarily He does not want my perfect performance.
No.
He does not want me to be perfect. He wants my heart because God is a God of hearts. We hear it all the time. So God's a God of heart. Okay. Well, I go back to my God wink. It was 2017, and it had been several years since I had worked with a wonderful makeup artist. Her name was Helen Gallagher at Guiding Light. She was an uplifting bright light to so many people that crossed her path. She passed away in 2017 on July 4th. I was with my husband at the time in Italy. We were traveling, visiting some friends that at the time were getting married, and we were on our own at this point in Rome. And it was the week of July 4th. It might have been probably July 7th. It was right around my husband's birthday. So we were in Italy, and all of a sudden, it was that week. I have a dream. I have not talked to Helen at this point. I have not thought about Helen. This is 2017. The last I saw Helen probably was in 2009. So many, many years went by. But during the years that we were together as my makeup artist at Guiding Light, she was so profound in my life. There were days that I shared my ups and my downs, my victories and my losses. anybody who know like it's like a hairdresser. You tell your hairdresser everything. So she was very much of the same type, and just a very comforting person in my soul. And I'm in Italy. I'm jumping around a little bit, but I'm in Italy. It's 2017 with my husband, and out of the blue, I have a dream of Helen. Helen comes to me in the dream, and I've not thought of Helen, but she has these piercing blue eyes, these beautiful blue eyes, and that was the first thing I saw in my dream. And I have to say, I don't normally have vivid dreams. I probably could count on one hand vivid dreams that I've had. This is one of like two, maybe three, but this is the main dream. And I'm okay with sharing it with you. Helen comes to me, she stares me right in the eye, and I'm drawn to her with like, what do you want to tell me? Like, what is it? Why are you here? And all of a sudden, there's a tremendous amount of wind all around me. And I see a door open, and in the door, I see famous people. I see Leonardo, and I see Brad Pitt. And I almost like want to go grab them and give them a big hug, and they kind of walk away from me. It sort of drops. They sort of drop out of my focus. I go around. It seemed like a church, but it was like a house. And I came around the house, and she came to me again with those eyes. And she said, essentially, be still. And I didn't understand what she meant, so I grabbed. She goes, be still. And I was still, and then everything, sort of this white light just enveloped me. So for a long time, I wrote it down, and I read it, and I read it, and I looked at it. I try to remember everything from that dream. And that reoccurring theme in my life, which has been, peace, be still. Be still and know that I am God. And that we hear that a lot, but what does that really mean? Because I wanted to know. What it means is that you are open to me. You are open to his presence, and you can hear him, and you let him into your heart. You invite him into your heart because he's inviting you every moment. But I think sometimes we're so running and we're so chasing whatever it may be that we've lost our peace. And so we're running around and we're running around and we're just sort of, it's all swirling and we're not really hearing God because why? We don't have that peace.
Yeah.
And this, when I hear we are worship for you worship, you're going to worship. Mm-hmm. He loves our worship, but he wants our heart. Yeah. And the way we get to that is to be still in his presence. Mm-hmm. And that can take a lifetime. That can take, as long as we make it as difficult as we want to make it, but it's honesty. And that was my God wink. Turned out when that dream was over, I had found out that she passed away on July 4th, 2017. I had that dream closer to July 7th. So I believe that she came to me during her passing. She came to me with a message. She came to me as she left from this earth and went on to be with the Lord. I believe she wanted me to know that message. Because it's been so profound. And I've talked to people that known her, and peace be still is something that she used to say. And I totally forgot that. And she would say that. She'd say, peace, peace. And so it was something that she lived by.
It's incredible how God comes to you during that stillness. And, even back to the God wink that I had, God waited until there were so many opportunities for me to turn around. I could have just not gone there afterward. There was like a couple hours where I had to kill time between work and going to this event. And I didn't want to hang around in the city. I just wanted to go home. But I found a Starbucks. I sat down. I did that. I walked, I got myself uptown. I went to the wrong location. There were Ashley canceled on me. My friend Ashley, our friend Ashley actually, canceled on me. I mean, and there's so many opportunities for me to say, no, 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 I'm not going to do this. But God waited until I put myself in the place where I knew I was supposed to be, where he told me I was supposed to be. Yeah. He waited until I got in that quiet moment of worship, and he waited until I asked. And that's because, God doesn't just hand you things on a silver platter. You have to meet him just
Yeah.
as much as he meets you. And, he knew that I had everything I needed to get myself to position myself
Yes.
to where I needed to be, but he was waiting on me to do that. And once I did, he gave me what I needed. And,
Right.
I could kick myself and say, why didn't you go months before? Why did you keep putting it off? And sure, that's a thing I could do, but I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to be thankful for for where how God met me where I was. And I'm so thankful for having those friendships for the last couple of years that I was in New York. And I'm thankful for the one that he gave me in you, because I believe that our friendship
I
is a
know. And that's the thing. And, being an actress, and I don't know if I'm sure it goes beyond that. Perfectionism is such a thing. It's got to be perfect, or I got to be perfect in order for life to look good. And all of those words and all of that stuff that has really come into the forefront of my mind, I said, you know what? It doesn't have to be beautiful because God sees my heart and He is with me. He gives me the strength. Even when I don't have the strength anymore, which usually at that point, I like you. I put myself in position with Him. I say, Lord, this is as good as I got right now.
Mhm.
This is as good as I got. This is where I'm coming to you right where I am. I know you can see me and I'm going to do my best here, but all I can do is give you my honesty.
Yeah,
And I know you will move on your timetable
yeah,
because you give me what I need
yeah.
and I trust you. But this is a daily
Yes.
practice. And
Mhm.
there will be days I forget to do it. I just forget. I forget to do it. Or I'll distract myself with something
Mhm.
else.
Well, something that you said, going back a little bit to your God week, you were talking about how, what was your friend's name?
Helen,
Helen.
Helen Gallagher.
You were talking about Helen and how she, did hair and makeup for, was it Guiding Light?
Yeah.
And how she was such a just a person who really spoke into your life. And it's funny because we have a few hair and makeup people down here who are just absolutely fabulous. I love working with them. And one of them is a Christian, another one of them, my friend, is not. But both of them are just such lovely people, and
Mhm.
they both have actually, ironically, because they're friends, but they didn't talk about this beforehand. They have both gone back to get their certificate in counseling because they
Oh.
find themselves with these actors in their chair doing their hair and
Mhm.
makeup and being almost a counselor and a therapist for them in their life. And the first time I remember, so one of them, Jessie, I remember talking to her about this and thinking, what an incredible way to say, here's where I am, here's how I'm impacting people, here's what I can do to make that more impactful. Because she could just say, yeah, I'm a hair and makeup artist and this is what I do, and chatting with people is part of the job. But instead she said, how can I be even more of service to people? How can I love
Yeah.
on my
Right.
coworkers even more? And so and going back to school for a certificate or a degree, I'm not sure which one it is, but it's so much work. It's time and money invested. And
And by the
she's
way, are they going back for like Christian counseling?
Jesse is not, Jaden is. Yes. So one of
Okay,
them is a
so
Christian, one of them is not. But even not as a Christian, I
yeah,
mean, what a wonderful way to love on people.
exactly. I was just going to say, through even my experience, we use our faith and we use science, and how those two things can help us integrate all of the pieces of ourselves. I'm learning that all of the pieces of me, the part that wants to fix it,
Hmm.
the part that is non-trusting,
Yeah.
the part that's kind of just wants to get ahead of everything and wants to just make sure it's all perfect, whatever. All of those people, all of those Ginas serve a purpose, and each
Hmm.
one of those people have wisdom because they're trying to protect me, and they know they have a point of view. There's something valuable they have to say, and slowing things down enough, and I learned this, to listen to each part of me, not to say, "Ugh, I wish that part didn't exist. I don't want that part." No, integrating all of my pain, integrating everything that I have been given in this life to carry and to be grateful for,
Yeah.
and take it, and then be so full of the Lord, in other words, in his light, that I then can share it with others if it is appropriate. In other words, if there's
Yeah.
something I have in my life that can help the other person, it- then you're a facilitator.
And I just thought of another perfect example of this. When I was in New York, I was working with Denise Simon, and she actually, so this is a fun connection. She's actually who introduced me to Penny. So
Oh,
she is a wonderful, wonderful acting coach. She was down south, which is when I met her. She came to my talent agency and she did a workshop, but she was down here because she was the on-set coach for the kids on Stranger Things. So she was coaching
mhm.
them. She came up to my agency on a Saturday. She did a workshop. We really hit it off. And so when I moved up to New York, I reached out and I became her assistant. And while I was working with her, she told me that she had a colleague who taught acting classes for adults, because Denise really just works with kids and high school and college students. She does work a little bit with adults, but she mostly focuses on like the younger actors. But she and Penny both went to Wynn's class, Wynn Handman's class.
Sure,
He
very
was their
famous
teacher,
acting teacher.
their
Yep.
mentor. Yeah, the acting teacher. Um, and so that's how she knew Penny, because she heard that Penny was doing a book signing. Actually, Penny was interviewing Bryan Cranston
Oh
that
wow. Yep.
evening. So I went and watched this, and I met Penny, and it was just a really exciting evening. And so
Sure.
I was invited to take her sample class, and so I did that. And then, long story short, here we are now.
Yeah.
But I bring that up because Denise, she started off as an actress and then she became a manager. She was actually Scarlett Johansson's first manager.
Oh, how
Um,
interesting.
yeah, and so she was managing all these people, and then she found, I don't really want to be a manager anymore. I want to coach actors. So she became an acting coach, and again, focusing on the younger actors. But as she did that, she found herself being more and more involved with these conversations of, we live in New York, but my child just booked like a lead role in a Nickelodeon TV show. It's filming in LA. What do we do? Do we uproot the whole family? Does just mom go? Does just dad go? Do we send aunt or uncle? It's just for a few months. Should we move?
A lot of
And
big questions.
a lot of good questions, exactly. So she had these conversations, and and then some sad things, custody battles, or kids wanting being asked to audition for things that they don't want to, but parents are saying no, this is a lot of money. And so she was getting more and more involved with these discussions with these kiddos
Hmm.
and their
Hmm.
parents.
Hmm.
And she realized that she also was in a very unique position to really make an impact in people's lives. And so she went and she got her counseling degree and she became a licensed counselor. And now she's able to navigate these situations, career decisions, and family counseling and things like that. So she's still an acting coach, but she is licensed and she does have the capacity of chatting with these families about. And while I was working with her, I saw several times and instances of maybe mom has this really incredible job and dad's the one that goes on the national tour with of Anastasia with the kid, or maybe they send a sibling down to Atlanta for just a couple of months. We actually had a kiddo from North Carolina, about where I'm from, and he came up with his older sister, and she was his guardian while he did School of Rock. And then when his contract was over, he moved back down because both of his parents had really great jobs that they weren't willing to give up, and he was 12. So just really, it's just, I bring this up because it's incredible to see really great instances of people saying, this isn't what I want to do for a living, but I see the unique position that God has placed me in where I can educate myself further so that I can be more of an impact. And Denise is Jewish, and so she does have, this faith that
Hmm.
she's able to kind of share with. I mean, she's very, obviously very professional, but yeah. So, anyways, it's incredible to see the people in my life who have shown up and they've said, hey, it doesn't just have to be about work.
Right. And I think that you're going to hear this a lot, and I hope we get to see more of this subject of in this industry. And again, Ashley and I are actors. I'm a little older than you, Ash. So in other words, I've been doing this for a while, and the one thing that I can say that can be so destructive, and I think to your point, is that this industry tends to be incredibly idle chasing. It comes in very fast. It comes in hot. You got to make quick decisions. The production's got to move. It turns around quickly. These are typical themes in this business, and that it is exciting. Um, but here's the catch: if your relationship with God is not quite right, or if you are putting any person, thing, whatever, way above Him in priority, there's a price. There's a price. And what's the price? Your peace.
Mhm.
And not as the world gives it, but only as He can give it. And how do you know that? Well, unfortunately, sometimes you have to go through it to kind of know that you've lost it. and and I raised my hand because I was 18, so I had to kind of learn just by trial and error, trial and error.
Yeah.
But thank God, I always loved God, and I kept moving towards Him, and I kept learning. And this is what I'm here to say: is that do everything you can to keep Him in first position,
Yeah.
and all things will flow from that. Because you really don't want a job that is not aligned with your purpose or His purpose for you, right? You really don't want something that's not from Him.
Yeah.
You'll lose your peace very, very quickly,
Yeah.
and it can be destructive.
Yeah. And I mean, and everything too. I mean, in this in this industry, you're selling yourself. I mean, even if you're not an actor, even if you're, a DP or a sound person, or
Yeah.
if you're a makeup artist, you're saying, sorry, somebody pointed out to me a few years ago. We had a mutual friend, and she works for colleges, and she had this interview, and she was so stressed out about this interview, and I was just like, you're a fabulous person, you are ridiculously talented, I don't understand what the issue here is. And I have another friend who's a dancer, and she said, Ashley, people don't go to job interviews 7 to 10 times a week like we do. Some people interview one time, and that's their job for the rest of their life. We're interviewing and auditioning several times a week, all the time. We are constantly saying, pick me, choose me,
Right.
love me from
Right.
Grey's Anatomy.
And this is where, right? And this is where it gets wacky. That's right where it can get, you get so overly invested that, and you feel this, when you begin to feel that pressure, so much so that you feel like you're going to crack, we know
Yep.
something's off.
Right, because it stops becoming about the work and starts becoming, well, did I not do
Do
my
they like
makeup
me?
correctly? Is
Yeah.
my hair wrong?
Yeah.
Do I need to lose weight? Am I not talented enough? I mean,
Correct. Yeah. And it's like the enemy will do anything to try to get you in the direction of, oh, I'm not enough. Oh, did I not do that enough? Did I not say that enough?
yeah.
Maybe they don't like me enough.
Mhm.
And you start going down that path, that's right where he wants you, into doubt.
Yes.
And
Yes.
we can't approach God boldly when we're in that doubt. So we want to catch ourselves. We say, no, I remember who I am. I am enough.
Yeah.
And you dig in. And you
Mhm.
even say a prayer at that
Yeah.
time. Say, Lord,
Oh,
this is as far as I can go.
yeah.
This is as far as I can go. I don't want to get ahead of you. Fill me
Mhm.
with your peace that only you can give me. Not as the world gives me, but as you give me.
Yeah.
And it has helped me over and over
Yeah.
again.
And on the flip side, though, when you are successful, it does open up this like ego can of worms. And it becomes very, very easy to, when you're in seasons of your life where you are booking and you're getting a lot of work, it opens up it makes it very easy to say, oh, I'm great. I'm
I must be
fabulous.
on fire. I could bottle it. Let me bottle it.
Exactly.
I've been, and I call them seasons.
Yeah.
Those are seasons of extraordinary grace. You're
Mhm.
getting a grace, and it's not like, oh, look over your shoulder because it's going to drop. No, you are grateful. You ask to steward it the best you can.
Yeah.
bring to light, Lord, anything that you're not pleased with, but help me to be your facilitator. Help me to be the best I can be. Thank you, thank you, thank you. But at the same time, seasons change.
They do.
And then when you got another season that is so different than the other season, then you're grieving the other season. And I've done that. I've like grieved certain seasons, like, oh, this season's a lot harder than the one I just came from. But this season is bearing fruit in me that I don't can't even put into words.
Yeah.
So in a way, you're like, thank you for this season that I can compare it to the other season, you know? So it's true. You have to thank him for all of your trials
Yeah,
and
and I
even the
have to
victories.
really step back and look at those seasons of, I got this fruit and now I've got the seeds and I'm
Yep.
seeing where those seeds are being planted and I've just got to keep nurturing them and
Keep nurturing
nurturing
them.
them
Yeah.
and then eventually they'll bear fruit again. And I've had situations like that where,
Yep.
I didn't necessarily want to take this job, but both outside of my acting career and
Mhm.
within my acting career, I remember back in college, I had just, gotten there and I really, really, really wanted to work for admissions. I wanted to be a tour guide. I was like, I'm perfect for this. Um, I love this school. I'm brand new. I'm an actor. I can memorize lines. Like, I'm the
It
perfect
makes
person.
sense.
Exactly. Yeah. But at the time, they weren't hiring and they had volunteer tour guides. So I was
Mhm.
volunteering and, and getting, compensated and treats and things. And they came to me and they said, "Hey, we have a job opening." And I was like, "Oh my gosh, this is so exciting." And and this is another God wink actually. They said, well, it's for the database manager. So it's all data. And I was like, "Oh my gosh." But something inside me was like, "Take the job." And I
Mhm.
said, "Okay." So I took the job and it was boring. I loved my boss. She was one of the coolest people ever, but it was so incredibly mind-numbingly boring. It was literally just entering in information into the database, and I hated that part of it, but I did love the connection and the people I was making. Anyways, I so fast forward a couple of years, I joke that I suffered because my boss really was amazing, but I suffered through the data entering for a couple of years, or for most of the school year.
Mhm.
And then she came to me, she said, "Hey, we really need to up our production value, our social media, because social media is really starting to catch on and we're trying to market to
Mhm. Mhm.
high school
Mhm.
students
Mhm.
and get them into our college. So, we're going to start doing a social media team. We need producers and videographers and we need blog writers and all kinds of things. And so I would love your help putting that together because I don't know anything about the film industry and you're a film student." And I was like, "Oh my gosh, I had my Esther moment. This is why God has put me here. And so I start, I start helping her and we're mapping it out and we're creating positions and roles and everything. And I'm like, this is incredible. I'm going to be a producer on this team.
Mhm. Mhm.
And she can't, so then at the end of the year and she starts interviewing and I said, "So am I going to get to interview?" And she said, "Oh no, you're too good of an assistant. I'm not giving you up." And I was like, "Well,
Ah.
I'll still be working for you." And she said, "No." And also I was still a freshman. She was like, "You're not old enough. You're not ready." And I was devastated. But I came back the next year. I kept working
Mhm.
for her.
Mhm.
And long story short, I ended up as the executive producer by my senior year. So it was great. And
Yay.
I learned so much. And it's one of the
God
best
gave
things on
you.
my resume. If you know 10th Avenue North, the band, they're a Christian band.
Mhm.
And they actually graduated from my college. And so we would send somebody on tour with them every year. I got to work with Universal Studios to do a marketing campaign for
So
Rock
just like
Paper.
one thing after another, it
It
just
was just
kept growing and
incredible.
growing.
And
Yeah.
had I said, "No, I don't want that job, I want a tour guide job."
Yep.
And so, you just look back on your life and you're like, okay, I see where God is guiding my
Right.
steps. And
Right.
even now, I'll do not a commercial, but I'll do like a short film for free,
Mhm.
even though necessarily, I need the money, but I'll do it. And then I book work from it, from these same filmmakers who say,
Mhm.
"Hey, thank you so much for showing up for free. I have a paid job now." And
Mhm.
so just saying yes anywhere and everywhere
Saying
you
yes.
can,
Yep. Following
because
that heart and saying yes.
and being discerning too, which comes from God.
Yeah.
But Yeah, so it's just incredible to see God moving, throughout my career and throughout my life. And there are seasons where I have to step back and I have to say, "Okay, God, like what are you doing?"
What are you
'Cause
doing? But
I'm
I
figuring
like what
it
you
out here.
said. Get away from the what are you doing?
Hmm.
I don't need to understand. Just
Yeah.
help me trust you. Help me
Yes.
tune into you. Because that lightness, that lack of bondage to why I need to understand, it
Mhm.
feels so good to just trust you. And we really are wired to trust God.
Yeah.
I believe because we trust in something. We want to trust in something. It's just what do we trust in? And when you trust in the Almighty Creator, you just fall in line. Your humility finds you again. I just find with pride, any of that, it kind of it's heavy. Like pride is heavy. Like the ego we talked about,
Hmm.
that's heavy. 'Cause it's a lot to hold up.
It's a burden.
Expectations and titles and what you think of me and what I got to be for this person.
Yeah.
It is a thing in our business. So I love bringing light to that. This
And
has been so enlightening. Again, just talking to you
yeah.
about just simple things. Um, and I hope that we get to do more of this.
Oh my gosh, I've loved this. We talk all the time, but I've really missed you so much and missed
I've
being in
missed
this
you
space with
too.
you.
I missed you too. You're my soul sister, and
Oh.
um, let's come back and let's do it again.
Yeah, except, or sorry, I'll cut that out. But yeah, totally. And we have some incredible people that are going to be joining us, incredible guests who are going to be coming and sharing their stories. So I am really, really, really excited for
And I
season
want to
two.
say also for folks out there that are listening or watching, please, if you want to share your God wink, let us know and let us know if we can share it on the podcast right here. We can change names. We don't have to say any names, but just that if we could share your story so that it might be a miracle or blessing to somebody else, let us know.
Yeah, Gina, thank you so much for doing this with me.
Me too. Thank you. You're a blessing.
Yeah,
Okay. Have a beautiful day.
you too.
God bless.
God bless.